we just have to deal with that. It used to not be like this, where you just get like a straight, mofo gap every day. But we're getting a little bit of a gap. It could have been worse. So we've had nice kind of 2-day bounce, right? We've seen a lot of stocks running. You're seeing a lot of range on stocks. You're seeing like stocks like do stuff like this, right? Where they're trending. You're trending 9 EMA trending, right? So that's the mark of, really a healthy move. You want to see like stocks like when they kind of rip off supports and they come out of breakouts, you want to see them actually trend and follow through more than like a point, right? Like in a choppy market, right? You get a breakout and it goes, 50 cents or $1, right? In a good market, you get a breakout and it's going to move 4 or 5 points or, 5%, 10%, 50%, 20%, depending on the type of stocks you're trading. That's the mark of really like a really, really good day. The other thing that you always want to be mindful of is just like market breadth, number of breakouts versus breakdowns, right? So, the sign of a good day in the market is when you get a large number of breakouts versus a smaller number of breakdowns. So we use 4% breakouts versus 4% breakdowns to see what the real strength of the market is. So, the breadth has been okay. I think that's been pretty positive. Now, the issue is going to be, is this a bounce that's more like this bounce, right? Where we just had like this kind of like 7-8 point bounce in the Qs and then we rolled over? Or, we're kind of right at that spot, right? Where we're at, I'd go like, we're 7-8 points deep, right? Essentially in this thing. So do we start the roll or do we actually keep it? Now, the good thing is we broke over the 200. We broke over the 9 EMA. So we do have room up to 180 before we really run into like any significant resistance. We're not overbought or anything, right? We're frankly, more of a longer term oversold. So we do have a little bit of room, and we'll have to see kind of how we start to navigate around those key levels before we have to look and see what else is happening. So just different things to kind of be mindful of. Same thing with the SPY. You're kind of at some resistance spots, but we're only on day 2 of the bounce, so we got to be a little bit careful. Now, the problem is day 3s are really tricky for what reason? Right? The easy money is often gone. The range has been sucked out of the market, and then, we're left like kind of a little bit last man to the gangbang style, right? Where it's like, man, everybody's doing it. And you're like, should I get in this thing? And then you're in it and you're like, oh, my buddy. And your buddy's like, oh, man, I just took that down too. And that's where we're kind of at right now. That's where the day 3 is. So let's just be careful. We don't want to get anything too crazy on these things. Gappers for today. This SFIX might be okay. It's not an A+. Like, you're already seeing it start to kind of fade off a little bit pre-market. So something just to be mindful of. It is like a long-term base over here, and you're breaking over the 200 SMA and that 30 spot. But, man, if it doesn't hold really kind of that 30 area, I think this one probably fades off. Sienna has an earnings beat out today. It's already pushing. It's already pushing on the pre-market. So that's where, we've got to be just real careful with this one. It's not a hot mover, but the chart does look good. We'll watch this one for an ORB. Most likely in a pattern like this, with 150 million share float, you're going to have to get it really on a pullback to get this thing going. Mongo Bongo is really one of my top watches for today. It had earnings out, but it's not getting much of a reaction on it. It could go either way. The chart is showing breakout, but frankly, like we saw the other day with Coop, and then we saw with Twilio in the software application sector, a couple of these things have faded off before they start rebounding the next day. So we very well may do that. Now, on the other side of things, a couple good movers that, we're going to be watching today. Tesla's got some chatter out that they've got, vehicles, extra vehicles, who knows, right? What they're fucking saying. But this thing's got a really oversold chart. I think we got room probably in this thing up into the 210, 220s if the market keeps going. The shorts are still going to piling in on this bad boy, but this one's had really probably the worst year out of the big cap stocks. When the market starts to run, a lot of these ones that are like stuck on the bottom, they're the ones that pop up the most, right? Because they're the ones that have been punished, and so now Elon Musk has been paying for his sins, but now this thing is kind of a little bit over, so we should get a little bit of a bounce. Big moves for today. I think our top watches are going to be planned. This is an IPO breakout. This thing's boosted over, that 42 spot on earnings. It's been consolidating for 4 or 5 days. So when you get like an earnings breakout, right, and you beat on earnings and it's an IPO stock, usually if it can just chill out for 5-10 days, what'll start to happen is they'll start to build up some steam and some energy to get going. And, it's kind of moving down a little bit pre-market, but it's just on one candle. It may not mean anything. Watch this one for a red to green. At some point, if it takes out this 45, I think that's where we're going to have a little bit of fun in this thing. Shop is really my favorite for today. Man, this thing has gotten just like a monster cock run the last month or so. This thing used to be like $20. Who gives a, who's even been paying attention to this thing? But the range on this has been sick. Like, if you can trade something, even if you got to trade small, so like for those of you guys who got small accounts, right? Even if you're trading like 30, 40 shares or something like this, but it can move like 20 points, it's much easier to trade the ebbs and flows of something like this than it is to like take a $2 stock that moves 10 cents and you're trying to move around like, right, like, 2,000 shares or something like that, and the range is 10 cents, right? Even though it's 5%, the range is not enough to actually be able to kind of sashay back and forth and trade without perfection. When you get a lot of range, what happens is the momentum takes over, but you don't have to be like to the penny perfect on something, right? Because the range is so big. You can kind of come in with a looser stop and let the momentum take over, and you can still make, good money trading, even things that are a little bit larger. So I know some of you degenerates like Hassan, I'm just kidding, Hassan. I like the really penny stocks, but I think sometimes you can trade really anything. Watch Roku. Roku was the hot one yesterday. It ended up kind of coming out of the flag. It got hit with like 15 upgrades yesterday and ended up trending all day. If this one starts to dip down huge at the open, keep an eye on this one. I think that 100 level probably gets defended today. So if we get a push down at the open, really keep an eye around 100. That'll be a psychological level. Also, you may start to see some support on this thing. And then, of course, just be aware all day of, news flow, right? As your president, I can come out anytime and say anything I want, okay? Right now, we're punishing those Mexicans with the tariffs. But you know what? I don't like Swiss chocolate either. So you know what? I see a dirty Swiss banker, those smelly guys, okay? They don't even shave their armpits or comb their hairs, and I don't like their chocolates. So I see a Swiss banker, next thing you know, they're getting the tariff, okay? They're getting the Trump tariff, which is D in the mouth, D in the butt, tariffs all across the board, okay? As your commander-in-chief, it is my prerogative to teach people lessons. I don't want anybody crossing over my border. You're going to get a tariff. So just keep mental note of kind of news flow and stuff like that. It's coming out all day, all the time. That's just the way we go, right? That's just the way we go. So we got to do that. Guys, this is an awesome market to shred, right? There's always two aspects of life. You can shred or get shredded. So make sure you shred, manage your risk, have a little fun with things. You only get a couple. As we're getting a little bit more volatility both up and down, it should give us some good opportunities. I'll be in the boom boom room doing what I do. Guys, trade well, make me proud. Let's do what we got to do.